we have any audience members at this point?
There are a few, yeah.
Okay. Should be because we have a public hearing coming right up. Okay. So greetings, everyone. It is 7:01 p.m. on October 20th. Welcome to this meeting of the Amherst Historical Commission. This meeting will start with a public hearing, which will have a vote to open, and then we'll close that public hearing. That's for demolition request, and we'll have the public meeting portion of the evening. So moving right along, in accordance with current law, this public hearing and public meeting of the Town of Amherst Historical Commission is being conducted via remote participation. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so via Zoom or by telephone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. A hyperlink to the hearing has been posted to the town's online calendar. So to start our evening, we have a public hearing for a request to demolish a late 19th century single-family house located at 406 Northampton Road. The chair will entertain a motion to open the public hearing regarding the request for a demolition permit for 406 Northampton Road.
So moved, Robin.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. So we'll do a roll call vote to open the public hearing. Joel?
Yes.
Pat?
Yes.
Kenzie?
Yes.
Hetty?
Yes.
George?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so that's unanimous to open the public hearing. So we'll move on to our applicant presentation. Walker, if you want to introduce them. Oh, you're muted, Walker.
Tom Reedy is here on behalf of the applicant. I'm actually going to make him a panelist in case he
Okay, sure.
wants to share his screen or anything. So. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Walker.
Did you have anything you wanted to present or any
Sure,
information
yeah.
you wanted to give us?
So for the record, Tom Reedy, I'm an attorney with Bacon Wilson and Amherst here on behalf of Zablut Realty in its application for demolition for 406 Northampton Road in Amherst. I think Luke is in the audience. If we need him, we can bring him in, but I don't think he's going to be necessary at this point. And so a little bit of history, maybe for some of the members of the commission. I think some of them, let's see, I think at least two of you were there in 2000, and I think it was 22. I was working with the UMass 5 College, who was looking to put up a branch and like a call center at that location. And so we had gone through this process then. I think the commission determined that it was significant, but it didn't rise to the level of being preserved. And then subsequent to that, Luke had a tenant issue where the tenant would not leave the property, but then also made claims at Western Mass Housing Court of substandard conditions as it related to basement flooding, mold, moisture, roof, window, siding conditions, and leakage. And so that lasted for, until I think end of August of 2025, when that tenant finally left. And so the house has fallen into a real state of disrepair. And I think if you heard on the site visit, I think it is just really a thorn in Luke's side at this point. He doesn't have plans for the property. So UMass 5, that deal has gone away. The contract expired. Luke operates the Zablut Motors next door to where this house is. And, his proposal is really just to take the house down. You've obviously seen the excavator out there. Some of the windows are boarded up. The contractor that he's working with didn't know they needed to go through this process, unfortunately. So obviously Luke means no disrespect by having an excavator on site as we're haven't even gone through this process yet. I think it was a little bit of ignorance of not knowing that he needed to go through it. And so, I understand that because of the earlier determination of significance, it's likely that the commission will find it significant again. We'd suggest, when you look back at I think it's the 2022 minutes, this isn't really a residential neighborhood or a residential area anymore. There's not the farm fields that were there when this house, if you look back at even the GIS photos from the 1960s, you can see this and a few other houses along Route 9, but they're surrounded by farm fields, which obviously when you drive down Route 9 today, it's just a much different area. And so we respectfully request that allowing Luke to take this down wouldn't represent a loss to the Amherst community. I think one thing that was a great suggestion that was never followed through on because of everything that transpired was to get this on the Macris inventory. I think it was a comment back in 2022. I think it was you, Pat, that had suggested get it on the inventory, and it just never happened. I think, before, to the extent we can, take photos of it, and then, because I think there are some pretty good photos still, and then fill out the form. I've reached out to the Mass Historical Commission, and if Walker has information or a form that we could fill out, we're happy to take that and put it on the inventory before, hopefully you'll allow us to take it down. And so that's that. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. We can obviously show, Walker, you probably have some photographs, and we have the historical aerial images from the 1960s from your GIS system if folks are interested. But obviously today is much different than it was before, and the state of repair that it's currently in is just not what it was.
Thanks, Tom. Walker, do you want to just show, maybe can you pull up the site on Google Maps just so we can take a look both at the current aerial and the front location for those who aren't able to make a site visit?
I can probably show if this helps you out at all, Walker. I can probably bring up. So if you can see this is just the GIS system at this point. Here's the site right here. We've got the aerial.
Great.
And I'll zoom in, and then if we go to the legend, let's do 1956 and see what that's like. So you can see there was a garage barn in the back that's no longer there. And then you can also see, if I zoom out a little bit, just really what that surrounding area was like. I think this is Wazonka property. This is obviously developed. Hawkins Meadow is right here. Obviously across the street, you can see a little bit vestigially with the lag of the aerial what is across there. And so I'll just even zoom out a little bit more to show what it was and obviously what it is now is.
And are those gray areas to the right, were those previous agricultural fields that are no longer existing?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
So I would ask sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. Commission members, if they have any questions for the applicant at this point. And feel free to use the raise your hand function, or you raise your hand physically, but I'm not seeing questions from anyone. In that case, we can go ahead and thank Tom for his presentation, and I guess maybe put it back into participants while we discuss. Does that work, Walker? Okay, great. So to remind all our commissioners, we did have a few of us out at a site visit to take a look at the exterior of this building. The question before us is whether this building that was determined to historically significant is preferably preserved. So we can have a discussion of that if anybody has any particular feelings or any questions that they want to ask of the commission itself. I don't want to just jump in on my own, but if anybody wants to either make a comment or have a question to get things started, feel free to raise your hand or speak. Joel, that was a big sigh.
No one likes seeing houses getting torn down. I guess it's not a great house. So maybe it's not preferably preserved.
Okay, I mean, I think that especially for a bunch of you newer folks here, it's really a good question about how we define preferably preserved. Unfortunately, I don't have the exact bylaw language in front of me. But the idea is that a preferably preserved building, if it was demolished, regardless of what replaced it, if it was demolished, would represent a significant loss to the architectural and cultural fabric of the community. And so since no one has come forth, I'm just going to put my feeling out there that this building has lost its significant parts of its integrity related to its setting. We no longer see an agricultural area there. We don't have any super significant architectural materials here or examples of craftsmanship that are obvious. So architecturally, it's not an outstanding building. Architecture isn't the only measure. A building like this in its original condition, in its original setting that had stood through time without many changes would raise, I think would raise the bar to a higher level in terms of whether it was preferable to preserve. But I don't feel that this building really even comes close to meeting that measure, particularly given its loss of context and setting, but also in terms of its architecture. So if anybody wants to either agree or disagree with me or ask a question, go right ahead.
Robin, I was thinking very similar, along similar lines that you just stated, that the context is lost. The integrity of the house is lost. And while it has a history, and I would still like to see a macros filed on this house because it has existed in history. And so I think that any decision we make should be dependent on that happening, because it needs the house and its presence where it is and the history of it needs to be recorded.
Okay, thanks, Pat. You bring up a really great point. And it gets into this area of what we can and can't ask of an applicant. And so right now we're deciding whether the house is preferably preserved. If it is, then we have some leverage to ask for things from the applicant, make them a requirement. Or actually, there really is no requirement. We could ask for something in the example of a house where we were to put in a demolition delay. We could say, you know, once you've documented this house, you can come back to the commission and we'll grant the demolition. You don't have to wait the first 12 months. If we decide that a house or a structure isn't preferably preserved, we can't make a requirement of the applicant to document the house. We, as members, can do documentation of the house. We can certainly ask for any information from the applicant. But unless Walker wants to contradict me, I think that we have to be clear that we often want documentation of buildings that are going to be demolished, but that can only be a condition when we've decided that we'd really rather see something standing. And when we decide that this building does not merit that standard, then, you know, we can ask for things or we can do them ourselves, but they can't be a requirement. I think it can.
I was thinking of it more as a request.
Okay, great.
And that request was made in 2022 by
Right.
me, according to the attorney.
Okay, yep,
So I think, we can't mandate it, Robin, you're 100% correct. But
Yep.
we can make the request. And
Yep.
it sounded to me a little bit like it was being offered.
yeah, that's true. I just wanted to be clear that it wasn't something that
Sure.
would be a requirement, depending on how we decide. Okay.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Joel?
For us newbies, can Pat describe this process, what it means?
To have a Macris documentation? So yeah, I can do that. So Macris is the Massachusetts, oh, I'm not gonna remember what, do you remember what? Cool. I should know it. I really should. It's part of my job. It's Macris. Walker, you're muted.
It's the Massachusetts Cultural Resource
Cultural
Information
Resource.
System.
Yeah.
Anyway.
A4. I can't remember what the A is for. Yeah. It's a cultural resource inventory. So maybe Walker, can you pull up do we have just pull up any Macris
Yeah.
record for Joel. And Joel, if you want to just write down Macris maps, and in your free time, and any of you in your free time can go on to Macris maps, and you can just put your own house in there and see if there's an inventory form, and you'll see if Walker can pull it up, this great graphic interface.
Yeah, so I'm on Macris itself, but we
Okay,
could
she's on Macris, yeah.
So
maybe
pick a place.
yeah, let's not do an area form because those are more confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, go back to that's an area form. Go back to we probably have to, we're big on macros. Yeah, any one of the ones with numbers. There we go.
And then
So-
I'll show the
and
map.
then yeah. Okay.
All right.
So whoop,
Oh, sorry.
Houses that are here still or gone?
what's that?
Are
Both.
those houses-
Both. Yeah,
Both.
that'll be, if something's been demolished, it can still show up on macros.
Okay. And so you feel that the integrity of that house doesn't even warrant the Macris map?
No, what I was saying is that it can't be a requirement. If we decide that the house is not preferably preserved based on its historic integrity, then we can't require it of the applicant. We can document anything that we want at any time. We as a commission, it's not that hard, and I think we have enough skills within our commissioners, but yeah, just hit the AMH 515. There we go. Hit that one. And then the inventory icon where the PLP, yeah, there we go. So this will just show you, Joel, what a basic Macris form looks like. That's the cover page.
And then this is an
And
old
then-
one.
Yep. And then you'll see a picture, some basic information. This is an older form. They look a little bit
Little
more.
map.
Yep, a locus map.
And then
You'll have an architectural description and a historical description. The newer forms and any form created now for Macris has to have a much more in-depth architectural description and historical narrative, but I've done those as part of my work for a number of organizations. So it's not once you get the hang of it, it's not hard to do.
Thank
So-
you for the explanation.
Yep. Okay. Hetty, George, or Kenzie, do you have any questions? Okay, all right. So in that case, I put forward the proposal that this building at 406 Northampton Road is not preferably preserved. So I will say that the chair will entertain a motion that the single family house at 406 Northampton Road is not preferably preserved. If anyone agrees with
Second.
that. Yeah, go ahead, Joel.
I was gonna second that motion.
Okay, so I think he's firsting that. So moved, it says Joel. Do I have a second? At which point we'll
Second.
vote. Okay,
Second.
Pat. Okay, so the vote before us is that the single family home at 406 Northampton Road is not preferably preserved and therefore demolition permit would be allowed. So I'll go forward with a roll call vote. Pat,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Kenzie? You're muted, Kenzie.
Aye.
There we go. Thank you, Hetty.
Yes.
Joel,
I
and I also vote aye. So the motion is approved unanimously. And Walker will be in touch with the applicant about next steps for moving forward. Great. Now we need to close the hearing. So the chair will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, and a roll call vote. George,
I
Hetty,
I
Joel,
I
Kenzie,
aye.
Pat,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. So with that vote, we close the public hearing portion of this meeting. Thanks to our applicant for being here, and we will go on to our public meeting. First item on our agenda is approval of meeting minutes, which there are none. So we will move on to our next agenda item, which is announcements. Are there any announcements, Walker or anyone else? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Walker, I noticed that there is, it's coming right up. I think it's the National, I'm not sure what the acronym is for, the Historical Commission, the National Historical Commission Association holds webinars for topics related to historic preservation for historic commissions. Have you attended any of this, Walker? I think maybe you have.
I've attended several webinars, probably some through that organization. I'm not sure. I've been trying
Okay.
to do the ones I have time for. So I'm
Okay, yeah.
signed up for one tomorrow. Even.
What's that?
I'm signed up for one tomorrow, but
Oh,
it's
maybe it's that
local-
one. Let me see. I'm just looking
more
at
of
my
a
calendar
historic
here.
district one, I think, but maybe.
Maybe it's next week. Not seeing it in here. Maybe I will just write a note to myself to email it out to folks. But I mean, I'm invited to attend because my employer has an organizational membership. It's $15 for non-members. This one is related to historic preservation and planning, which is a big part of understanding what we're doing here as a commission. So I can forward that information, and Walker, you can just let me know if historical commission members can, usually with organizational membership, you can attend for free. So we'll just see what could come of that. Those are usually pretty informative, especially for people who are new.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have our mid-century modern survey update. Shannon Walsh, I believe, is here to give us an overview.
We'll promote her to a panelist. So while she's joining, I mean, you know the history to this, Robin, but for the new people, this is a CPA project that was proposed last year or the year
Is it CPA or is it? Oh,
Yeah.
wait. Oh, okay. All right.
Yep.
Forgetting.
to get
Yep.
survey forms done for specifically for some mid-century modern properties areas.
Yep.
And I reached out to Shannon see if she would have the time and budget to do this, or the time to do it within our budget. And we're kind of negotiating how much can get done with the amount of money we have available. But
Okay.
So she's got some, I think, questions, and we can kind of have a discussion here more easily than with me being a go-between via email.
Yeah, and you know, unfortunately, this is not something that I'm super up to date on. I know Hetty was working with
Hetty's been,
and
yeah,
Madeline, but Madeline's no longer on the commission. So
yeah.
Shannon, maybe you can lead us off and we can see what we can accomplish here.
Hmm.
Nice to see you. Welcome.
Sure. Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, can.
Okay, hopefully my dog won't bark. Don't bark, Cleo. Thank you for having me tonight. It's nice to see you all. I have to say I didn't prepare anything. I just have the emails up that Walker and I were going back and forth. And Walker, nice to meet you. We've had a lot of email conversations. So Walker reached out, as she mentioned, just to talk about some potential inventory and a potential inventory project and a current budget and trying to figure out what could be accomplished for those funds. So initially, or most recently, she emailed me a listing of, I'd say 11 building single building properties. Is that correct, Walker?
So,
Which is the North Amherst Fire Station, Stavros Center, Wildwood Elementary, Fort River Elementary, Amherst Pelham Regional School, housing at 9 Chestnut Street, Emmanuel Lutheran Church, and Whalen Apartments, Bangs Community Center, Amherst Savings, and then the residential property at 300 Flat Hills Road. So those were the, she had put forth, I'd asked really what was a priority because it was a pretty big list and included a couple of area forms that didn't have the properties defined. And as Robin just mentioned, area forms are confusing. Area forms can become like a giant thing. And as you were just looking at Macris and looking at what older forms used to look like, the Mass Historical Commission has really changed requirements over time, and which is good because some of these buildings will only get one inventory over, decades and decades. So it's good to do it right the first time and not have blanks on the form and really try to fill in all the pieces and give the best shot. We had also talked about the Pine Grove condos, which it sounds like, I know you said were there like 50 something properties. Is that right, Walker?
I don't have it in front of me. Hetty
Okay.
might have a better.
I thought those were a
I
I
little
know I
bit
have
later.
56 buildings is what I have. So the
Oh,
Pine
okay.
Grove condos was one potential area with 56 individual buildings. And I know some sections of that I believe are older than others. And then Van Meter Drive and Harlow Drive area, Orchard Valley, and then the Red Gate Lane area. So our most recent email, we had gotten it down to where I was sending GIS maps back and forth and just trying to get a sense of the streets and then which gives the property count and defines the boundaries. And that's where I think Walker said, why don't you just come to the meeting and we can talk about this. So I don't know that this would all be answered tonight because it's pretty detailed, but one of my questions was with any or all of these forms, is your commission looking for a potential national register? Is the goal just pure documentation, or is there also going to be a consideration of national register eligibility for any of these properties? Because that would involve another form that goes to Mass Historic and then a request for a determination. And then really for the areas, so I understand in the buildings, and that's great, and I have the addresses and can see them. For the areas, I'm just looking for the streets, the number of buildings, because then I can do a building count. With areas, Mass Historic, you don't have to necessarily photograph every single building, but they really do want the data on the property ownership. They want a property index so 56 buildings means 56 addresses and outlining the ownership for each of those properties. Van Meter Drive and Harlow Drive. I was looking at the maps. There was an older map and then looking at the current map, and I was trying to figure out if it was the area would be bordered by East Pleasant, Van Meter, Ridge Crest Road, and Harlow, with the 2 cross streets of Frost Lane and Hartman. And then if I knew that, then I could do the property count for that one. Orchard Valley. Let me see. I think there was a talk, Walker, of maybe 2 phases for Orchard Valley was one of the things that I had written down. So that's a pretty big area.
It's
If I'm
huge.
looking, it's huge.
Yeah,
So
and the second phase is funded by HUD. It's contiguous, but
oh, that's right. It was 2 phases of construction.
Mm.
That's right. So that one, also just kind of defining which streets are involved. Are you interested in a first part? That was I was reading about that neighborhood. They have a great newsletter, right?
Which one?
Yeah. Orchard Valley,
Really.
Oh, okay, yeah.
really neat community. And then Red Gate Lane. So Red Gate Lane, I was looking at the road and asking if it would be from 11 Red Gate Lane. And I can email this to all of you so you're not trying to remember what I'm saying and then you could talk about it. But I asked if it would be 11 Red Gate Lane to 164 Red Gate Lane, ending at North Whitney Street. Or would it include some of the side streets like Hills Road, Maplewood Drive, I did a Google Street View, and it just depends what time of year they drive down. And I think it was a full foliage time of year, so it was hard to see.
very
But it did
difficult
look like a
area.
lot of those. I'm sorry.
No, it's a very difficult area to photograph.
Oh, yes. So
because the
I just put
houses
a
are
note
set
to
back from the
myself that
street.
it would really have to be like a dead of winter, no snow, just to really be able to get the houses as the nice thing would be if the property owners were interested in this, if they would, just like I was allowed for the wonderful Amherst Barn documentation project, to go on any properties and then to get a really proper photo, if anyone's interested. So that would be kind of neat if it was something where the owners were interested in having and would allow to get a closer picture. I wrote the same thing about 300 Flat Hills Road, which Walker, you had written great notes about that, having really great documentation, but you also noted that it's set well back from the road. So I think that would be wonderful if the property owner sounded like, at least in the past, was really interested in sharing information about that property. That would be a great one to be able to get onto that property and properly photograph it. I did a project in Agawam. It was a house from the early 1800s, but that property owner met me there, let me take photos, brought me inside, showed me the fireplace, and it was really special to be able to document it that way. So I'm not sure if that's the case with 300 Flat Hills, but it would be a great opportunity to get it properly documented into Macris.
Yeah, I can't take credit for the notes. All those came from Hetty and Madeline.
Oh, good job. Good
I'm
job.
just
Good job,
passing
Hetty.
it on.
So, Walker, can you remind me what the budget is on this?
We had 15,000,
Okay.
which is not much.
No, I
Sometimes
think
there's
that-
some flexibility to put some planning capital towards a project as well, but I don't
Okay.
want to, I can't say for sure how much that would be.
Okay,
And
I mean, I
if I
think,
could just jump in real quick just about that budget. I just finished a project for Longmeadow that was 14 buildings, and it was a nice, I would recommend, if you could, to do this in phases rather than trying to go for, I
yeah,
think.
that was going to be my next question,
Mhm.
would be to sort of take a look at, and I know there were some houses that I had suggested to the list, and I think I hadn't checked in with Hetty and Madeline last time. I mean, there's certainly the Frank Lloyd Wright house, right, Hetty?
It's
Then
already
there's-
on the register, but
Oh, okay, maybe that's why.
and
Uh,
the thing about Redgate, the Redgate Lane neighborhood, is that many of those houses are evocative of the Usonian style house that Wright built,
Mhm.
or the Amherst College professor and his wife. So
yep.
there's a nice tie in there, and I think we should start with
Mhm.
Redgate Lane if we do it
And
in
it's not
phases.
as big either. It's
Yeah.
at least the section that I
It's
did a map cutting of.
yeah, it's
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
what was I gonna ask? Yeah, I was gonna say that if we could make this project maybe something where we, along with whatever properties we select, have recommendations for future survey. So, you could have just a very brief discussion of places, if we decide not to do Orchard Valley and I have to make a plug for the community. I just moved to Echo Hill, which is an unusual and had some unusual design. There's a section of houses that are quite mid-century modern looking and also had specific planning covenants to it around tree removal and common areas and that sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know if it would be better for me and Hetty to start up again and get some recommendations to Shannon after running them by Walker. Does that seem like a good
Megan,
idea?
I'm sorry to cut in, but we have a lot to discuss tonight. We have a lot of people
No, yeah, I know. No, that's why I'm trying to say, like,
for
maybe
the CPA
right. So
applications, and I'm wondering if this can I suggest a subcommittee? Is that something I can?
that's what I was just saying. Yeah, that you and I
Yeah,
could pick it
that's
up again.
I mean, I think
Discuss it with Walker and get back to Shannon with a better list.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and with prioritizing and kind of figuring out, in
And
terms
if
of
Joel
how
or
many count.
George or Kenzie want to join, that would be great as new people, just to get a sense of a sort of smaller group taking care of something.
Yep.
Sorry,
Okay.
I didn't
No, that's okay. That's okay. So you're still in, Hetty? Yes? Okay, great.
Yeah, very
Great.
much so.
So does that sound like a good plan, Shannon?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and then we can hopefully put it as an agenda item for the next meeting. Or if not, the next meeting, not too long. We don't want to.
Sure, I'm happy. I'll send a quick email tomorrow of how I mapped it out so far, and then you can take it and work with it and
Okay.
figure out what you guys want to prioritize.
Okay, great, great.
All right.
Thanks. So nice to see you.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for
Okay.
inviting me. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Okay. So I think we're on to our presentations. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my screen running here. I've lost my agenda. There it is. For CPA projects, the first presentation in our list on the agenda is the cemetery headstone restorations.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of went over that already with you all, and it's also just the same project as we already did this last year. So I'm happy to talk about it again, but we might not need a full presentation for that one.
Okay, do we have anybody from, it's a town project, so we
It's
don't
what
have
town
anybody.
project, it's just me, yeah.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions regarding the cemetery headstone restoration project continuation, Joel?
So it sounded from what I was reading that the project is half finished and you're looking to complete it. Is that?
Well, I don't have a really good sense of exactly how much has been done. It's possible that there's it's less than half finished. But
But
there's
you're
more to be done.
finish it, right?
It would be nice to get it finished. It may take a couple more cycles. I'm not sure. We're going to see how much they can get done this time. But they finished West Cemetery. They had a few left this cycle in West Cemetery. Now they're just focusing on North and South cemeteries.
There was a little blurb on my phone from the next door. Anyone get that next door
Hmm.
complimenting the work that had been done in
Yep.
the cemetery? That was,
Sure,
Yeah, they've had some neighbors walk by and compliment them as well. So,
yeah, I think that's great.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so if there aren't any other questions, the next item on the agenda is the industrial history of the River Mill. We have two CPA requests from them. One with the title of passive recreation and one with the title of the completion of the historical survey.
Robin, I
So,
have to recuse myself for this because I'm now a board member of Donor.
okay,
So I'll just
so
And
you
I'm-
can turn your camera and your microphone
log
off.
out.
Okay.
I'm not sure if anyone was going to be able to present on that. If anybody in the audience is here for that project, you can raise your hand. I'm not seeing anyone. So I can go ahead and send questions out if you have any. I just did want to comment that the continuation of the project that they're already doing would be eligible, but I do not believe their other application is eligible for historic funds because they're asking for money for interpretive signs and a website and that sort of stuff.
Right,
which
so
is
they have an
not-
$85,000 request for the passive recreation, which is education and signage, and then
not historic preservation.
Yeah, and then the $105,000 request for the completion of the historical survey. I would say when I looked over the materials, I was a little bit surprised by that number. The previous grant that we gave them was quite small, and it also included some components. My understanding is that documentation of the history of properties that are basically under the purview of the management of the town of the Amherst is an allowable CPA activity under historic preservation. But there was, I think, within that application, there were sections that were much more related to education and outreach and stuff. So I would expect to be parsing that budget much more closely at the CPA meeting on that basis. I don't know if anybody else has any questions about that particular project. It was preceded by a grant to get them started on their, they're documenting this the Mill River area, which used to have, I'm forgetting the exact number, is it like 7 or 8 mills along what is now a recreation area, and trying to kind of get a complete cultural landscape background going for that entire area. So that would be my concern in terms of representing to the CPA committee that particular project. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns about that? I know for everybody, I think everybody else, well, Pat has been here before, but this is new material to Joel and Kenzie and George. CPA funds, every year we get a big chunk of money that's both based on a surcharge that the town charges, and also a match from the state based on the percentage of our surcharge. And that big pot of money can be spent on open space, recreation, historic preservation, and what am I forgetting? The fourth one, Walker.
Housing, affordable
Housing,
housing.
there you go, affordable housing, yep. Thank you. So we get to the when we get to the meeting at CPA, I've been, whoever is the representative, in this case, it's been me for a while, come with the recommendations of the historical commission or concerns or questions. And some years, I think this year in particular, there are some years it's a very close, the request is very close to the amount of money available. And some years there's quite a differential between what is requested and what is available. One way that the CPA committee can deal with projects that ask for particularly large amounts of funding is to bond them, which is to basically take a loan, pay for the project over time. So say you had a $1 million project that was bonded over 5 years. When the project started, $200,000 of that money would be taken out of the next CPA year. So you basically have debt service year after year after year until the project is completed. Smaller projects are a little bit more straightforward. We look at things like urgency, particularly with historic structures. Is there a reason that, not addressing the issue this year would be detrimental to the structure as a whole? We also look at things as whether the applicant has sought funding from other sources, which can be challenging. Private property owners really don't have other sources for CPA or for historic preservation funding, but nonprofits do. Municipalities do. Active congregations are another, active congregations and private property owners are the ones with the least access to other funding sources. So those are all the sorts of things that we look at when we look at these projects. And then we have to decide how to kind of think about them. And if we can't fund them all, one option is to offer to fund a portion, or not offer, but to suggest funding a portion. Another idea is if a project is it just isn't time sensitive and it's a particularly tight year in terms of funding, to put that forward to say that, we support this project, but it would be lower on our list of priorities due to the fact that it's not urgent and, these other projects are. So that's just kind of a little bit of a basic overview. Is that helpful? Yeah, Joel? And then George.
And are we allowed to know what the amount of available funds are?
Yeah, that will be presented at the CPA meeting. I want to say it's usually around 1.5 million
Total?
total, but that's total. So there'll be projects coming in from housing, from open space, recreation, and historic preservation. So there's a lot of need out there.
Right.
Yeah, so George?
Yeah, so that sort of answers my question in that this evening or whenever we're recommending to you what the priorities would be of what's on the slate. And
Yeah,
then you've got
yeah.
to go to this larger meeting and argue one of four areas within their slate, you know.
Yes, exactly, right. And
Yeah.
I'm there to answer questions. It'll be a little tricky this year. I think the Jones Library projects speak for themselves because I won't be able to be part of those discussions. My suggestion to Walker was that maybe when you guys have your discussion about those two, a separate letter could be written to the CPA committee that doesn't include me and my name, just discussing those projects so that the committee gets information, but it doesn't have to come through me, if that makes sense. Yeah, and then I go and I mean, I'm also there looking at all the other projects and thinking about everything in the full context, so. Okay, so we were on the Bill River projects. Did you guys have any other questions related to those, Pat, Kenzie?
No, I think we've actually taken a look at this project in past years, so it's a continuation, it seems.
Yep, yep. Okay. All right, in that case, we can move on to the town hall slate roof restoration, and Hetty can rejoin us. Let her know. Are you presenting on the?
No, Jeremiah will be
Okay,
presenting on this one.
okay. Hi, Jeremiah. I'm not sure we can hear you.
You can all hear me all right?
Now I can hear you, yep.
Okay. I'll be sure to speak up. Yeah, so my name's Jeremiah LaPlante. I'm the facilities and maintenance manager for the town of Amherst. This year I had put in one of those large applications that you had mentioned earlier for the town hall red slate roof. I have a presentation, so I'm going to share that with you all so you can have a look.
Hmm.
Maybe if someone could help direct me towards where I would share my screen. I'm not
At the
seeing.
bottom of your screen, you might have to move your mouse down to see it. There should be a green arrow that says share.
I gotcha.
Mhm.
There we are. Okay. Oh, everything's in a way, so let me. Everyone can see that? So essentially, I just took the PowerPoint presentation that I put together as part of some other projects and wanted to use that again, use that's template to help with this one. So the ask was this year was to help restore, replace the town hall slate roof. There is quite a bit of age and decay in that slate roof. I'm seeing some more and more cracking in the masonry, and that's largely due to the water intrusion that's happening. All of the various leaks in the roof is also compromising the insulation that's inside the building, which then cuts down on the efficiency and the energy efficiency of the building. Um, I know that I understand that slate roofs last quite a long time, and oftentimes you can get 100 plus years out of them. I just want everyone to realize that we are at about 130 years now with this slate, and there has been maintenance that has been done throughout the building's history. There was a larger effort was put in when we had the major renovations back in the mid to late 90s. So the urgency for my project, the urgency for the ask is to ensure that we are preserving the building. That if we have that good roof and that good foundation of a building, that all of the things in between really can be fixed. So, and having a weather-tight, watertight building is so supremely important, especially when we are trying to push our energy and sustainability goals for the town. If we have buildings that leak, whether that be air intrusion or water intrusion, it's very difficult for us to push ahead and get into our decarbonization efforts. Okay, so my request was for $1 million. And here is a quite a few pictures of the roof. It's a building that I absolutely love, and every day I walk into work, I do stop and have a look at it. All of these photos just show some different areas of the building, but also just some different issues with the building. That slate, and on the left, you can see in the vertical panes we have slate that's starting to come away. These other three photos, you could see a number of tiles that are missing, cracked, chipped. We have delaminated tiles. The second image up towards the top, you can see a little bit of white mastic where instead of it was really I'll just call it was an insensitive fix to probably a water leak, where they put some type of sealant on that area to prevent the water. We have some areas of the roof that were repaired, but not using the red slate that the building is so well known for. So you see those areas. Again, the middle image, you could see a tile that has started to shift and is coming out. Again, more deterioration, more cracks. The tile, the singular tile that's on the right-hand side, that's a large piece of tile, nearly, it's 10 inches wide by, say, 12, 13 inches. I took a photo of the back of it because I want you to see that this was the repair, and I'm sure that there was some concern and there was some urgency to it, but you can see that what was used was some type of adhesive. Now, to restore a roof, even if it is a single tile, it should have been fixed and fastened to the roof, as it once was. So lifting up the tiles and actually fastening it properly. The use of these sealants in these adhesives was not the right choice, and as we can see that tile has failed. So that particular tile was found in the front of the building, stuck into the soil. So pretty scary. We can see over here that the cone shape on the left-hand side, all of that up top, up by that beautiful copper crown on that area, that's all mastic. That's on all a sealant. So again, this is insensitive repairs that have been done over time to help mitigate the water damage, but at the same time, they didn't, the roofers didn't put the appropriate care into the slate itself.
So are we looking at, when we're looking at that, I'm not, I mean, I'm a little bit familiar with slate roofs, but when you say, was a sealant applied on top of the slate?
Correct.
Oh,
Yep.
okay,
And in between, yeah, in between each of the joints of
okay,
the slate.
okay, to kind of glue it in place,
Yeah. Yes.
essentially, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
The second image is actually the peak where our clock tower is, and in this one, there's not a lot that's going on that roof. However, that spine, that copper spine that runs down each of the uh, uh, hips of that roof, there it has lifted and has been pieced together. And in this one particular photo, the last little section is actually missing on that. So again, it's looking at this roof as a complete roof system. It's the tile, it's all of the metal, the flashing, the caps. It's the underlayment, which is so important, and also looking at the deck that's below. Um, some more images, again, just trying to show you what does it look like from the outside. And you could see that there has been what I find as really interesting about the two images on the right hand side. If you look on the one all the way to the right, you almost see a slight change in color, and that's some of the tile that has been replaced. So the valleys were done, and some of that the right along the eave was done. So you can kind of see what's the older tiles and what's some of the newer. Um, this was a fun little project I had here. So I took a random photo of a section of the roof. I counted all of those tile. It's about 630. There was a lot of tile in that one image. On the right-hand side, I started putting a black square over every single tile that to me looked that was cracked, chipped, had some delamination, or is just missing. And I covered up 91 tile. So that's 14%. 14% of the tile from that image needs to be replaced. And I can't imagine what they look like if you're up there. So this is my perspective, taking a photo from the New North Common and then zooming in and having a look. If you are up on the roof, then what does it look like? That I'm certain that 91 would grow. Here's what we see when we're looking from the other side. So we're focused on the slate, but this is what happens when we have the leaks. All of that decking, all of that stain is water. That's water that has penetrated the building, either from the failing slate, missing chip tiles, or the underlayment. Yes, roofs did have underlayment. I've found small scraps of underlayment in the attic of Town Hall. You have 100-year-old tile, but you have an underlayment that probably lasted about 20 to 30 years. That's a critical piece to ensuring that building is weather tight. So this is the underside. Some of the different gables that come off, some of the different doghouse dormers. There was that lovely piece of plastic that I found up there. Thankfully, it was dusty, so that means it's no longer being used as a means to redirect water. I just wanted to show you that. Some more images. I'll have to say that some of these images I took just because I thought it looked so cool. Not because I was trying to show you some of the water stain. It's just the second and the fourth one, I just love the way it looks. So
We can appreciate that.
yeah. And then again, you could see on the steel I-beam. I had to again, there's history there. I love it. I really enjoy it. So if I see someone's name scribbled on something, I'll probably take a photo of it. Some more images, and also John Baker's signature up there from September 9th. I don't know what year that is. He didn't put that on there, um, but we can see that there has been some pretty significant water penetration that has happened. Um, I did some repairs this spring to a section that was coming through, and on that section. So what's happening is in various areas of the town hall we have snow retention. And this at those snow retention, as good as it is for helping all of the individuals down below, it does put a stress on the building, especially if there isn't enough of that snow retention. So in some areas of the town hall, we may have a snow fence that's just on the bottom, like right down towards the edge of the building. What that ends up doing is all that when we have a heavy snow, all of that snow load presses onto that snow fence. And in those areas where that snow fence is attached, it tends to crack and break a lot of the tile. So what I would want to do is through this project is add more snow retention throughout the roof so that we could uh, ensure that all of our community is safe moving around the building when there is those heavy snows, but also distributing that snow load throughout the entire roof. And now we're inside, and this is some of the areas that we've had leaking come through, and we've had to capture and divert so no more interior finishes would be damaged from them. So both of these areas were recently addressed. However, the water capturing devices still need to be removed. And this was actually from today. So we had some rain, and you could see how on this is the south gable or the facing the church, where you can see where the building is very damp from all that rain. That's right on that big granite spine that's on the edge of the building. On the image on the right, you can see that a lot of the masonry is deteriorating. Where the roof meets these gabled ends, it's quite literally roof framing, some copper flashing, and then these large pieces of granite that run along the building. It that is just another area where we're seeing water penetrate. And if it's getting through that edge where that copper meets the slate, then it starts to deteriorate the masonry there. And that's all my pictures. I hope you enjoyed. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you. Questions from commissioners? Do you want to stop your screen sharing? There we go. Joel?
Jeremiah, thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
And thank you for all your hard work preserving these buildings. It's a big job.
Thank you.
I guess I'm asking you, is it possible for you to break down your $1 million request into different jobs? Like how much would the roof job be if you had to break it down?
Well, so this really is about the roof. I have been speaking with a number of different um, well-known slate roofing companies and owners, and much of them have estimated it close to $2 million for the project, which I would say initially what I'm looking for is I'm going to ask big in hopes that I can save the town money by doing the entire roof all in one, thinking about mobilization, thinking about staging all of it. If I'm unable to do that, what I would like to do is look at it as in two halves. So phase one, phase two. Phase one could be the whole front half, including the clock tower. Phase two could be the rear of the building. But that's really the approach that I would like to take with it.
So the $1 million that you're proposing was for just the roof, and you're not 100% sure it would do the whole roof.
Correct. I have capital funding as well. So last year I asked the JCPC and received $500,000 that it was specific to roofs. This year in FY26, my ask for the JCPC was $1 million. Now that $1 million is all buildings, interior, exterior. That's for energy projects. That's for accessibility projects. It's everything. So I can't spend down all of that money. There's just too much work that needs to be done on all of the buildings. So it's sort of like ask big. If I can get it all done, wonderful. This roof is my priority. But if not, what I would like to do is see it in phases. One year I get one half of it done. The next year I get the second half done.
Yeah, and that's generally something that does kind of get asked and hashed out at the CPA meeting. So that's a good question, Joel. That, and then it becomes a question. The other important answer to have at the ready is how much more would it cost to divide it into phases? Because sometimes there's a cost savings to be had.
Absolutely.
And I
Yes.
think as I explained earlier, the committee can decide to recommend something for bonding, which spreads the cost out over time. But you're talking about a $1 million ask for a $2 million project. So yeah,
Correct.
you've already reduced the project by half. I know it's come up before, you know, this is such a huge project, and there's a whole bunch of reasons why artificial slate would not be appropriate here. I mean, the first of which is that CPA funding is contingent on rehabilitation within the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, and those
Yeah.
standards are a requirement of the funding, and the standards state that all material original material that can be maintained will be maintained, which it sounds like you guys are planning on doing by maintaining as much of the slate roof as
As
possible.
much as possible. And I know in my application I put 50%, and I think that's
Okay.
wishful thinking.
But then the other piece is that like material is replaced with like material. So an artificial slate application would be pretty much no question, no on in this particular project. Sometimes when you have smaller projects where it's a very small amount of roof, those and there's an economic feasibility question in mind that comes up. But was I gonna?
Yeah, the red slate is it's much more difficult to come by.
Right.
It's only being sourced in one area. It's up in like the Vermont, New York line, and it is much, much more expensive than all of the other slate. They don't necessarily um, prepare a lot of the red slate for roofs. It's sort of like a made to order, just because of there's not quite as much of it, and it is a much harder stone color to work with.
Any other questions from commissioners?
Jeremiah,
Okay.
thank you so much for your presentation. It's compelling, the reasons for us to take care of this roof. It's the most important building in town, in Amherst Center. It expresses our identity as a town. So thanks for walking us through it with your pictures. I had a sort of question for maybe for Walker, which is, and maybe I just don't understand the acronym JCPC. Is there money already given to this project from other town budgets apart from CPA?
Let you.
Walker, I can
I don't know
answer
the
that if you'd
details.
like.
Yeah.
So JCPC is the joint capital.
Thanks.
Planning committee. I had to look it
Yeah,
up.
and then the other ones, the other letters, but it
Planning
is
committee, yeah, yep.
yeah, it's our joint capital. So the ask they're you know what I deem a priority for the department. So any HVAC, any decarbonization, you know, all of the buildings. So yeah, that I tend to I've been shifting to get more of like one large bucket of money, and I'll say these are my priorities. These are my top 10. This is what I hope to do, but every year priorities tend to change a little bit. So
I do have a question about the staging, and I think, well, the idea of doing it in phases is obviously a really good argument. Staging, just the finances of staging big construction jobs for roofs is substantial and is
Yes.
going up, you know, and it not necessarily commensurate with other aspects of a really complicated project like this. So I'm concerned about that and whether you're going to see that down the road. I mean, everything's just going to go up.
Yep, Joel?
Jeremiah, I'm just curious because you're talking about a deteriorating underlayment. What does $2 million get you? What's
so it would be a full strip.
a full strip?
A full strip, see what the decking looks like. I would imagine that there is decking that will have to be repaired. And then once that decking is repaired, then I'd like to see the entire roof be done with a membrane. So not, you know, oftentimes with more modern roofs, sloped roofs, we're seeing like an ice and water on valleys, on the ridge, on the eaves. But I think this building and its age just needs it throughout the entire. So I would love to see a fully adhered membrane across the whole deck, and then they would start the slate process, um, uh, along with all the copper flashing, all that metal work to go along with it. But yes, that's what it would be.
Yep,
All right,
George?
you're actually going to do it the right way.
Yes.
And that's the gist I'm getting, is that you're gonna use the most, you know, you have to be historic for the slate. But whatever is under it, you can find the most modern fix for an
Yes.
underlayment that you can
Absolutely.
possibly get and afford, I guess is
Yep.
the plan. Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, thanks, Jeremiah.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming. We'll see you at the CPA meetings. Okay. Our next presentation, do we have someone from the Simeon Stronghouse, Walker?
Yes, we do.
And if you want to demote Jeremiah
Yep.
at this point.
we've got Ms. Larson here for the Strong House. Was there anyone else who needed to join?
I believe Gigi Barnhill is
Okay.
also
I will bring.
planning. Oops. Okay, well, so I am Liz Larson. I am the executive director of the Amherst Historical Society. And Gigi Barnhill is also here, and she is the president of the Board of Trustees. I want to apologize in advance for not having a formal presentation. This is the first time I've come up before this commission, and I wasn't quite sure what to expect. So I have put together some supporting images for the proposal that we have put to the CPA. As you have read in the information you would have received, we are looking for $275,000 from the CPA to stabilize the foundation on the north wall of the Simeon Strong House. So if I can share my screen, just to make sure that we're all in the right context. So the area that we are looking at is this particular wall right here. So if you are, I assume that everybody is familiar with the Simeon Strong House, but it is about 265 years old. Most of the building, as we see it now, was completed in about the late 1800s. It is this particular wall, this north wall, and that's what I will be referring to it as, the north wall. When the house was built, it was built on flagstone. It has a flagstone foundation like many of the buildings in Amherst. So, are you seeing my photos of the flagstones? Yes.
Yep.
So this is, a couple years ago, when the Jones Library project was starting up, we had an engineer come in to do a structural analysis. We just wanted to get a baseline for the building before anything started happening next door. And so in 2022, 23, we had Jake Smith, the engineer, and he came in and took a number of photos and basically said, yes, there's some work that needs to be done, but the building is strong. And then last summer, we noticed some cracks. So Jake came in again and looked at what was happening. And then as a result of wanting to do some more exploratory, we took up floorboards in the front hallway of the building to see what was going on in that northeast corner of the building, the one that faces the CVS parking lot. When we took up the boards, it turns out that water from a number of extreme weather events for the past couple of years has been washing underneath the building along that back corner. And the water has been slowly eroding the soil around the flagstone footings, as well as getting into and seeping into the wooden beams. So it has been sinking down and has been causing some cracks and some additional strain on that northeast side of the building. We were advised at that time that it would probably be best not to have the public coming into the building until we address this issue. So we elected to not be open to the public this year. We were fortunate that we were able to find an alternate satellite space. And in the meantime, we have temporarily stabilized that side of the building. Jake came up with a plan to stabilize it for what he figures is about a 2 or 3 year, to give us time to really figure out what it is that needs to be done and how to address the issues. So for the stabilization, what they did is they've removed a couple of these flagstone footings and installed real concrete footings, and then it's called an engineered PSL, so parallel strand lumber. And there is a beam now that is temporarily supporting that side of the building. What we are going to the CPA for is to do the permanent stabilization and repair of that building. It will involve, I'll stop sharing this now. It will involve creating, I believe it's a total of 7 new concrete footings and the new joists and all of the things that the building would need to rest on. I apologize, I am not an engineer. We have worked with Tiagno Construction and then Jake Smith Engineering, and they have created the plan that will put these footings in and all of the necessary internal structure. However, all of the skin of the building, the exterior would be, we keep all of that. It would all be reused so that there would be no visible change to the historic character of the building, because we are going to reuse what we have. And the Tiagno is very good at sourcing complementary materials if there is something that we need to replace. So, and in addition, we also were looking for funding for our roof structure, but we feel that we do really need to make sure the foundation's strong before we can put a new roof on it and to shore up the roof. So I'm sorry, this is not my specialty is engineering, unlike Jeremiah. So
Yeah,
No worries.
I think
Go
the
ahead, DJ.
CPA package had the detailed drawings and plans that were drawn up. They were PDF attachments, if you're curious.
Okay. Okay. Did you want to say anything else, Gigi, before we go into questions from the commission?
Nope, I think Liz, I think stated everything very clearly. It's I must say, are very fortunate to have the alternate space. Otherwise, I don't think we would survive as an institution very easily. And it's also just not possible to have the public come in. Last year, we had 1,000 visitors for our Cambodian exhibition, and I'm not sure that the structure at this point could repeat that amount of traffic. So there's some urgency to this, indeed.
Okay. Questions from commissioners? Can you remind me the dollar amount asked? I don't have it in my notes here.
So we're asking for a total of 275,000. So 235 of that is for the foundation work, and then 40,000 would be for the reinforcement of the roof trusses.
Okay.
And that does include a contingency fee that Tiagno recommended.
Yep.
So you can treat that as you wish.
And has the Strong House pursued any other, or will they be pursuing any other grants related to this? This is one of the questions that I always ask. I think you guys did get a Mass Cultural Council grant. Yeah, so you're familiar with them.
Yeah, so we would be going to the Cultural Facilities Fund through Mass Culture and Mass Development as well.
Okay. And have you looked at or considered the Massachusetts Preservation Project Fund through MHC?
We have looked at that, and similarly, there's also the 1772 Foundation, which we are looking at the moment. Where the concern is there are some requirements for preservation restrictions that we want to make sure that we fully understand before we were to commit to that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and one of the problems, for example, is with the Mass Cultural funding, that's all matching. And I was surprised when we got the match 2 years ago that they they allocated that funding without our having the match in hand. And I'm not sure for a larger project that they would do that. I mean, there's a real timing issue. One of the advantages of CPAC funding is that it can be spent over a 3-year period, whereas mass cultural funding has to be spent immediately. They give you a year. You can't start
Right.
anything until July 1st, and it's got to be done within 12 months. So it's a very tricky timing dance, and starting with CPAC money is ideal because then it's there to say, yes, we have this much, and we can match an equal amount.
Yes, yes, that's what I would be, the expectation would be, and I know it's challenging to time the two of those, but if there are organizations who are willing to consider you, given that you're up for a CPA grant, I mean, that's,
Mhm.
but the only reason I asked that question to each applicant is so that we can stretch our CPA dollar. If there's a possibility to stretch our
Right.
CPA dollars further, and this is a particularly large ask here, it's always good for anybody who is an applicant who has access to other funding to try for it.
Mhm.
Because some of our applicants don't have anywhere else to go. That's, but yeah, that's great. And I think it's great that you guys got the cultural facilities grant. That was,
Yeah.
I think that's the first time I've seen that happen since I've been on CPA. So,
Really?
yep, yeah.
Well, you all recommended that I could.
Yeah,
offer
that was me.
something.
Well done.
Gentle shove. That was good.
Okay. Joel?
Thanks for coming in. So for 275,000, how much of the foundation will you be replacing, do you think? And does Tiagno think that the balance will be fine over the years?
So the area that will be replaced is the corner of it's the northeast corner, because that is where that is where the water has been washing underneath the house and flowing underneath the house and pulling away that. The rest of the house, that particular section is just on a crawl space foundation. The remainder of the house is on a full basement, and that foundation right now is looking fine.
Looking fine. So, I mean, I'm just curious how much more money it would cost to lift the whole house up and do the whole foundation.
I never thought of that. If I'm going to lift the house, we're going to move it away from the tree. I don't know. No, I don't have that information. It's not something that we're not having foundation issues on the other side. We're only looking at the northeast wall, where we have noticed that it is definitely pulling the house down that direction. So that's the side that we need to address immediately.
Joel, if that sounds like a really interesting, you have an interesting perspective and a good question. I'm assuming you're asking that on the kind of a long-term cost savings.
More of a long-term
basis.
solution. 275,000 is a lot of money to repair a foundation. I was curious what it would cost to just do the whole thing.
Right. I would say, I would suggest that I need to submit questions to the applicants through my role as the CPA rep. So if you want to word that question in an email to me, I can include it, and that way these guys can have Tiagno or whoever would have the technical expertise to answer that question in a way that might be more useful. Yeah, Gigi?
I think I can answer that from
Oh, okay.
documentation that Tiagno gave us. This process includes excavation and removal of the existing stone foundation on the north side and the footings, installation of new concrete footings and piers, a new concrete block foundation at the north wall. And it's the replacement of the piers in the crawl space that also will help stabilize the room that faces the Jones Library and Amity Street. So it's That
Mm.
that half of the house is over this wretched little crawl space.
Yeah, I know all about them.
And I think basically what's happened over the last century is that that ground has just gradually gotten softer and softer.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing the problem. But with new footings under that, and new lumber, which is detailed in Jake Smith's drawings, that's actually a lot of work. It's more than just replacing a sill and
A lot of work, yeah.
18 inches of foundation. It's a big, substantial effort.
Mhm.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming.
Okay,
We look forward to seeing you at the CPA meeting. And
indeed.
appreciate your meeting with us.
Great. Thank you. Thanks
Yeah.
all of you for your time.
Thank you.
Dear.
Okay, I think we're up to the Goodwin Church. Do we have someone from the Goodwin Church, Walker?
Anyone from the Goodwin Church, raise your hand and I'll make you a panelist. All right, I've got. Anyone else?
And Walker, can you confirm the ask for this project?
Yeah, I don't have it directly in front of
Oh,
me.
okay.
You can take a look real fast.
Hello, thanks for
Hi.
joining us.
How are you? Yeah, I'm John Higginson, Professor Emeritus from the Department of History at University of Massachusetts Amherst.
Welcome.
And thank you.
Feel
So the-
free to go ahead and give us your presentation on the church. Can you remind us of the dollar amount for the ask for this project? I don't have it in my notes in front of me.
I believe it was $50,000.
50, okay, thank you.
48 is actually what the
48, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Okay,
Um,
you have the floor.
all right. I'm sorry I don't have any PowerPoint or photos. I assumed that my co-presenters would have that, but so I'm just going to give you a narrative of the building, the problems with the building. And what I can do is to uh, do a PowerPoint of the areas that need repairs and give it to you within the next 2 days.
Okay, great.
Yeah, because visual, as the two previous presentations demonstrated, if you have a visual snapshot of the problems, it's easier to explain why they are so urgent.
Absolutely. I
So,
want to pause you for just a second, Walker. There's a Mary Smith
Yep.
comment.
I did
Okay.
just let her in. She's been the one who's been emailing me about the project, so
Oh,
she
okay.
might have some information.
So-
So she should be
Okay.
rejoining us in a
You
minute.
should be joining us in a moment.
Oh, she didn't want to be a panelist, so maybe
Oh,
I'll
okay,
see if she wants to say something. Oh, there she
okay.
is.
Amen. I was trying to get this to work and to help John, the trustee. He has kept me informed and up to date to everything. But I do have some of the literature. The fee is $48,000, and maybe I could give them. When we submitted the documents, the PDFs, they have a printout of what they will be doing to the structure. Was submitted with the application.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't on, so I don't know what other questions you might be asking.
Oh, that's okay. I think John was gonna give us an overview.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think our most immediate and urgent problems have to do with the roof and with chronic water damage that is a result of the fact that the building is not watertight. This has caused some warping in terms of the wooden structures of the roof, and it is also um, it is also the source of a more immediate problem in the form of mold buildup on the walls of the basement and the first floor of the church. Also, we have a need for some updating of the lighting and electrical work in the electrical system inside the church. And as I say, I can, within the next 2 days, give you a series of a PowerPoint that graphically illustrates the those problems in a visual way. Yes. Mr.
Right.
Greenbaum, you had a question?
Oh, go ahead, Joel. I'm trying to pull
Ian.
down the presentation, but you go ahead.
Where's the water coming from? Is it coming off the roof? Does your church have gutters?
It does, but the gutters, clearly are not working well. And also, where we are situated, there's a high water table.
Okay, so
And so that could be solved, I think, by getting more powerful sump pumps.
so you have water table in your basement.
Yes.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah. So
What do you say?
that could be solved, as I said, by perhaps two sump pumps, the kind that the dry zone people are inclined to install, which involve not only just a sump pump, but also some pipes that will guide the water away from the building.
Sure.
Yep. Okay. Other commissioners have questions?
Thank you for coming before us. I love this building. It's really important to Amherst, and your congregation is really important to Amherst. And I'm sorry that you've been having a lot of problems, not just with the roof, but with other things related to that. I'm wondering, Professor, whether there's a way to, again, phase the work that you are looking at, maybe prioritizing. You said your most urgent problem is the roof, kind of phasing the lighting and electrical work and the mold issues to come at a later point, just to be sure that we're giving you as much support as we can and what you've asked for, which seems very reasonable to me.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have vast problems like the ones that Mr. LaPlante noted for the town hall building, but because it's not a large building to begin with, but the problems with the mold become those kinds of problems become rather immediate and urgent when you've got a congregation there on Sunday or some other activity inside the church. Our congregation is composed largely of people over 50, and some of them have, the typical medical problems that are most affected by mold, like asthma and so on. So,
Understood.
in other words, these problems also constrain our ability to grow our congregation.
Yeah, that's a good point. What was I gonna ask? I think I remember that the congregation received a previous CPA grant, is that correct?
Yeah, but it wasn't what it did was to pay an architect to tell us that we needed to renovate the building to make it accessible to people with disabilities.
Okay, all right,
And the sum that the projection, the budget that the architect projected was about $150,000, which we could not afford to do.
okay, all right, yep. And then, George, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Professor, for bringing this to our attention. I'm just wondering from your proposal and what you're saying, I'm kind of confused whether you're trying to deal with the roof first or sort of the foundation drainage issues. It looks like it was a chimney company that you were working with
Yes,
to
yes,
determine. So it looks to me like more so than the roof, it's really the foundation and the perimeter around the foundation that you're trying to get drained and dealing with it with the sump pumps.
yes. That certainly is a problem, but the roof has caused some of the walls in the nave of the pulpit to uh, begin to peel and uh, swell, and it's unsightly. It
Yeah,
doesn't do much for the aesthetics of the
right, right.
building.
And just some gutter work up above there, that relates to the water on the ground too.
Yes,
They're sort of all
yes, you're absolutely
one
right.
thing on that side.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Yep, the only thing I wanted to add, John, was that, when it comes to religious structures, the CPA, just is limited to projects that do not further the mission of the congregation. Basically, we divide it into the congregation and the building. So, just so you know that sometimes is a question that comes up within the CPA committee for any religious building with an active congregation. But we did last year, we funded the stained glass windows for the JCA building, which was I guess previously congregational church. So that's just something to keep in mind, but it shouldn't be a problem as long as the repairs are to make essentially to restore the historic fabric of the building. So
Exactly, and
yep,
that's what they would be for,
yep,
to ensure its sort of historic integrity.
absolutely, yep. Okay, other questions? All right, in that case, we'll let you go. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.
Look forward to seeing you again at the CPA meeting.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're
Amen.
Did you have
welcome.
anything to add,
Okay.
Mary? Or
No, thank you very much. Everybody have a good evening.
You too.
too.
Yes,
Take care.
okay.
Okay. So now, we're gonna move on to both the Civil War tablet preservation project and, the Jones Library proposal. So I am going to recuse myself, and Walker will help Kenzie, our vice chair, get through these two presentations and question and answer sessions, and then I'll join you when you're done.
Okay, Robin. See you later.
So I'm going to invite the people who are here from the library committee to go first, so they don't have to keep waiting if they don't want to. Raise your hand if you want me to let you in as a panelist. All right, I've got some people coming in. So you can all go ahead.
Hey, what, I think I'm to start here. Jim, is anyone else joining you as from FAA?
Nope, yep, got one more.
Josephine, I believe, will be joining.
Great.
Dan Wilder.
And Dan, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I think the order of business is for me to start off tonight with a little overview and then turn it over to the FAA people and Bob Parent, who can talk to the details of the proposal. But it seemed to me that because some of you are relatively new to the commission, you may not have been involved with any of the dozens of previous presentations about this larger Jones Library project over the last 10 years. This project has been before all kinds of town committees, town council, we've submitted an application for CPA funds to help us cover the cost of a part of the project. A larger project, just to set the stage, because I'm not sure whether you all have received the CPA application, which has a little bit more of a description, but so they have received it?
They did get a chance to review it, yes.
Oh, okay, all right, good. And I can skip some of this, but basically the library project has been a long time in coming. It's a very large and complicated project to address long deferred, very necessary maintenance of this building, part of which was built in 1928 and has significant historic value to the town. The assets of the building have been described in excuse me, considerable detail in a historic structures report, which is attached to the application. And the measures for which we're seeking funding, the historic preservation measures for which we're seeking funding, they're not the only historic preservation measures of the project. In fact, you all funded or recommended the funding, and CPA funded the creation of a space for the considerable special collections and archives the Jones Library has. And we're also replacing the slate roof in kind at the request of the commission. And all of the measures that are requested funding for with the CPA project are included as required in a memorandum of agreement with the Mass Historic Commission. And it's partially at this commission's request and partially at their request. Those have all been agreed to, and what we're requesting funding for has been specifically described in that memorandum. Specifically, the measures that we're seeking funding for are to preserve some very unique and valuable Philippine mahogany woodwork throughout the 1928 building, a good portion of it, to restore some of the interesting and valuable wood floors in the 1928 building, and then to replace, again at the request of this commission, the windows, the exterior windows of the 1928 building with windows that keep the historic appearance of the building. I think that's really all I need to say. Oh, well, I would say that the architects who've been working on this, Feingold Alexander, who represented tonight, Jim Alexander, Josephine Penta, Dan Wilder, are the architectural firm that's known for its historic preservation work, including for the old chapel at UMass, for example, and the Holyoke Library, and the Fontaine brothers, the contractor on the job, as a historic preservation expert, helping the project to ensure that all of the requirements of the architects for historic preservation, and they are in great detail, which they'll go into, are being followed in accordance with the National Park Service standards. Now, this is a really important project for the town. It's one of the most used buildings in town. And if the Historic Commission and the CPA Committee would like to help put historic preservation front and center for the public, this is a place to do it, because something like a couple 100,000 people go through this building every year. It is a place where historic preservation would be seen daily by lots of people and its value. I think that's all I have to say at this point. I think I'll turn it over to, I don't know, Jim or Josephine, which of you can describe in a little more detail what it is we're seeking funding for.
Great. I think Josephine, are you in charge, or
Yes.
Dan, of the slides?
Yep, I'll share my
Great. Okay,
screen.
there you are. Hi.
Let me know if you can see my screen.
Great.
You able to see it okay?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
I think as Kent said, thank you, Kent, too, for that introduction. We've been working on this for a while and want to make sure that there are just some elements that would be a big help to have additional funding to preserve some of the unique features that, because since we're doing the slate roof and a number of other things, this would be a big help to preserve this these interior elements. Particularly, there's some interior woodwork and millwork, this Philippine mahogany woodwork, which is part of this MOA with Mass Historic. So that repair, and in some cases removal and reinstallation, would be big help. The exterior trim, a lot of it has just deteriorated over the years since 1928. Areas of small pieces of wood that have rotted are missing that need to be sistered in, and other repairs to the trim. And then, of course, installing the new wood windows so we can get rid of the storm windows, but there'll be new wood sash, which will match exactly the original, except it will be insulated glass. And then, of course, we're restoring all the trim. So you want to add anything, Josephine, to that, or is that?
Yeah, no, we have a few slides that are just going to touch base on all of these 3 bullet points. And so we'll just get into a little bit more detail on all of 3 of these in this brief slideshow that we have.
Great. The areas of particular interest, and I suppose maybe the easiest one to talk about would be the one right in the center, which is the main entryway in the center of the drawing. The shaded area in front is the 1928 building, and of course then, which we'll be focusing on tonight. So the stairway will be restored, the stair completely restored in place. The walls and details of trim and entranceway around it, all of that will be restored, refinished, and kept in place. Then there's several areas, if you look to the right, or to the left rather, I guess, on the slide, the paneling in the upper left and the millwork also will be retained. This is an important element of this trim. And then these currently bookcase areas will also be restored and retained, as well as the entrance of the door framing and entranceway. So these are kind of important elements to the appreciation, I think, of the historic space, since we're also keeping the fireplaces and various other details in these spaces. If we move to the other side, you'll see there the two areas, particularly in the director's offices. Those two spaces, those walls will be kept again and restored. The very nice sort of elliptical arched fan light over that entranceway, over the doorway will be kept. Then you have several other walls that are part of that room, which will be kept. The upper part, also the area around the existing elevator, that framing will remain in place as well. The elevator, of course, will go away. And then we have another section highlighted there, another very elaborate door frame and entablature leading into that corridor from the director's office. So these are areas that particularly requiring our attention. And we also just have shown here the Whipple window, which will be kept and relocated in the building as well. So these are very tricky elements we want to keep, which will be then blended into the rest of the woodwork, which is also being kept. So these are not the only things, but these are really things requiring a great deal of extra effort. Do you want to add anything, Kent, to that, or Bob? I don't know.
Perhaps one piece, Jim, to add is the
Sure.
main stairway that you discussed, just to bring the Historic Commission up to date. In order to retain that stairway in its current condition and retain the handrail, we had to seek a variance from the State Architectural Access Board, and we did seek that variance and received that variance a couple of months ago. So that was necessary for us to continue preserving the woodwork that we had intended to preserve. Maybe the other thing that comes to mind, and Josephine or Dan, you could possibly expand upon this, but as we get through the project, we occasionally uncover portions of the original building that we didn't even know that existed. And there's one wall, for instance, that where the original stonework of the wall was buried in I don't know if it was sheetrock or another type of material. We had no idea that there was the original masonry behind that wall, and it's been opened and uncovered, and we're making plans to retain that. So whenever we have an opportunity to expand preservation beyond what we had planned, we're taking advantage of that.
It's one of the joys of working with a building like this, with the combination that it's had over the years. There are often a few surprises, and some of them are really pluses, like this opportunity to expose that wall. It's a great opportunity. Next, I'll talk a little about some of the exterior details. Again, it's maybe be a little hard to appreciate some of the conditions that we're finding here and some of the exterior framing, the exterior trim, the columns, the entryway. But there's a considerable amount of deterioration. Mainly, it's just cleaning, repainting, getting back to a solid surface. And in some cases, there'll be small pieces that have to be added that have deteriorated over the years. But again, that is to keep in place and work with the existing material as much as possible. The main entryway is going to be kept entirely as it is, cleaned, restored, and hopefully will be just as it does today, with only minor changes. Some of the capitals and the entablature around the front entry, again, there'll be some small pieces that have to be added up under the cornice projection at the top. But in general, we're very fortunate. It's in reasonably good shape, so that it'll be easy to bring back. Not easy, but it will be very part of the process to bring that back to its original condition. You can see the windows if you go down to the lower left. Is a little bit of a different matter. Of course, the sash will go. You can see there's some deterioration of the existing trim, and which the existing will be kept, and any pieces that have to be added will be matched, and of course the whole thing painted so it will look just like it does today. The window framing, the new sash dimensions will match the existing sash exactly, and they will be also wood windows. And so that's going to be a major part of the project, is to get this insulating glass in, which will get rid of the storm windows, so you can really appreciate the very handsome facade in its original format. Again, we're finding in this small gable area where the gable meets the stone building, there's been some deterioration. So we will be just simply replacing trim, properly adjusting that and caulking it to the stone. And some of the match board also has some deterioration, which they'll have to be replaced. Then we're looking up at the sort of bay window and trim. Again, this will be a matter of scraping, getting back to the original surface and restoring some of the small trim pieces that are missing, actually. Anything, Bob, you want to add to this? Just sort of skipping through.
I think you have it covered. Thank you.
Great. And just to focus a little more on the windows, and I know that you probably cannot see, but the goal is to really, these will be custom made wood windows to match the sash will be custom made. We'll be keeping the trim pieces and the dimensions, which you really can't read, but this is the original window. You can see the dimensions here are being exactly matched with the new window. The difference will be, of course, the insulated glazing in the window, but the trim, all of those pieces will be as you see them, as you would see the building today. And we will get rid of the storm window, which will make a much handsomer presentation of the entire building. So let's see, is there anything I should cover on that? I think that's pretty much it. So that's really is the ask, is to help with some of this very detailed preservation work for the interior millwork and its installation, the exterior trim, and then the new windows throughout to really solve some of our energy usage problems. And that's pretty much.
I would just add to anticipate a question. This is a very large, complicated project. For the funding for which is coming from all kinds of sources. And we've got 550 Amherst families, we got foundations, we got all kinds of other sources of funding. We're looking for anything we can get because, in fact, the Trump administration withdrew its $1 million National Endowment for Humanities grant that we received a couple of years ago. And the increase in costs in 2022 has really made this project a much more difficult lift than it was. So any assistance we can get would be much appreciated for a project that, despite the controversy, occasionally it looks like it attracts, was approved by 65% of the voters in 2021. This is a very popular, the town wants this project to go forward, particularly emphasizing the historic preservation aspect of this has been important from the beginning. Happy to answer any questions, provide more details.
It's really great to have this detail about these three aspects of the project that I seem to remember we talked about quite a lot.
Yes, we did.
When the project was under review before, before the addition was demolished. I'm just a little confused that I thought that the things that we've been talking about tonight were covered in the budget for the project that the town voted on, and maybe I shouldn't concern myself with financial issues, but as I'm making an ask to the CPA committee, I want to be sure that we're not duplicating something that we've already funded in the existing budget for this really important project. So that's and maybe it's a question for Bob Parent rather than for FAA, just in terms of where the monies are coming from. with the last CPA project, that was specifically for special collections, and that makes total sense to me. So, you know, I can see that this is also addressing very specific things that are really important. God is in the details. You know, we've talked about a lot of this stuff before, so I'm just seeking clarification for that.
If I can be allowed, I think that's exactly the right question. And just to clarify, the funding for this project is coming from 3 distinct sources. The town is coming up with 15.8 million of the $46 million total. The Mass Board of Library Commissioners grant is another 15.3 million, as I recall. And the rest of it has to be raised by the trustees of the library. And the Friends of the Jones Library have undertaken the capital campaign to raise that. So that last portion has to come from other sources, and that's the origin of this application. We've written grant applications to all kinds of people and foundations, and we've made this application to the CPA committee for help in reaching that particular funding goal from other sources. Does that help clarify? It's not redundant we're not asking to replace something the town has already committed to fund.
Thank you.
Yep.
I had a kind of a question, kind of a comment. Robin would know better than I, and unfortunately she can't participate in this, but it's not clear to me that new windows will qualify for historic preservation funds. So that might be something that the CPA committee asks you about. And I'd recommend looking into that, or I might try to look into that as well. But I think that's something that might be a little bit questionable as to whether it's eligible for the funds or not if you're replacing windows with new, just so you're aware.
It would be a surprise if both the Mass Historic Commission and the Amherst Historical Commission required replacement windows, because we were going to try to repair the windows, and we were told that wasn't acceptable, that the historic preservation funds of the CPA committee wouldn't be able to help cover the cost of those. But yeah, it's something definitely to research.
Yeah, because that was part of the memorandum of understanding, I believe.
Yes. Yeah. The new windows were specifically required by the Mass Historic Commission, primarily on the suggestion of the Amherst Historical Commission. Hetty and the group strongly recommended that, and we ended up agreeing with that recommendation.
Yeah, and I remember that. The CPA funds and the Historic Commission don't necessarily come at it from quite the same direction.
Right.
There might not be a quite exact match between where their priorities are. So it's just something to keep in mind.
In case there's any question from the committee as to why we are not requesting funding for the slate roof, which is clearly a historic piece of the project, we expect that work to be complete before July 1st of 2026. So we did not include that in our list. The only things we included were the work that we expected would occur post July 2026, with one correction, and I'll take the blame for this. The first line on the cost estimate that was identified as salvage existing wood, and these are all line items that come off the Fontaine approved schedule values and pay requests. That line item should not have been included because that wood has already been removed and salvaged and decontaminated and stored for reuse. So the total should be reduced by $100,000 to reflect that correction.
And we should make that clear to the CPA committee too.
So what is the figure? What is the figure that is the ask?
It's $1,352,306, which reduced by 100,000 would be $1,252,306. That's in the app. That's an attached exhibit to the application. In other words, the line items in the exhibit to the application numbers were taken from Fontaine's bid. That's what they're going to bill the project for the cost of this work. And that's all work that we've been assured by Fontaine will not be done until after July 1, 2026.
Questions from the commission? Right.
Yeah, thank you very much for taking the time to consider this one more time. It is a very complicated consideration, and we appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good
All
night.
right. Dethrone us.
All right, so the only one left then is the Civil War tablet restoration, which I did go over in brief at a previous meeting, but I'll give a quick overview of it again. We're requesting 75,000 to set up a permanent space for them in the Jones Library. So part of the Jones Library project is to create a room in the special collections area specifically for the tablets. And the room will be set up and more or less finished with the Jones Library project, but there are no funds for moving the tablets and for assessing whether the space is appropriate for the long-term storage. So is the humidity correct? Should should they be encased in glass, like things that a historic preservationist professional should assess to make sure that they really do last and that they can be displayed and also preserved at the same time. So that's our hope. We got some rough numbers from a company that does this kind of assessment, and we think that should be plenty to do the moving in the final design of the room and get them in place. Any questions on that project?
So what is the final dollar value for that project?
75,000.
Okay, I might have missed that at the beginning, sorry.
That's right. These tablets have been temporarily stored for a long time now, and it would be good to have them in a permanent place before they degrade. They were restored at one point a few years ago, so they may not need restoration work, but they will again if they don't get stored properly.
Are they still in the bank center?
Yes.
Okay.
Joe?
What is a Civil War tablet?
So these tablets were gifted to the town after the Civil War, and it lists all of the Amherst residents who were soldiers in the Civil War.
What are they made of?
They're made of marble.
Marble.
Yeah. And there's also a smaller tablet that has the inscription, like the dedication on it.
Joel, we talked about these earlier in my time on the commission, and Anika Lopes came before us and explained, their significance for the town, for the African American community in particular, and they're really amazing. They're also the marble is very, very crumbly. It's quite soft marble, so we struggled with her, as to where these big pieces of marble could go. Would they be inside? Would they have their own, dedicated space that was enclosed in some way? I think I'm really in favor of spending this money to do this particular piece of work within the Jones demolition and addition project. because I think it's really critical to the sort of wider mission of the project.
So is this 5,000? Is this a quote from a company, or is this just a guess?
This, I talked to a company and they quoted me a few different amounts for a few different aspects of the project, and so I took an educated guess based on that.
And I just have to chime in because we have had a lot of discussion about this, and these tablets were stored in a DPW building that housed salt at one point, and they were crated and in straw, and there was the opinion that they were very much a part of Amherst history, but there was also discussion that they wouldn't weather well being outdoors, and they'd be subject to vandalism. And so then the bank center offered to house them once they got uncrated. It's been a process, Joel. And then the decision was made as part of the design of the Jones Library that they should have a proper place as part of the archival collection of the library. And so here we are.
Great.
So any other questions? In that case, we should get Robin back on and you can talk about the projects, if there's any that you would recommend or not recommend.
So maybe we've just talked about this one, Walker,
Yeah.
unless there needs to be more discussion.
Yeah, hi guys. I'm going to share my screen with you. I just did like a really simple little Excel spreadsheet where we can talk about ranking, maybe high, medium, and low in terms of priority, or if you really want to rank, 1 to 10 for the projects that don't involve the Jones Library. And then I'll leave for a brief amount of time where you guys can just give a recommendation for the 2 Jones projects to Walker that can be on behalf of the other members of the commission. I'm assuming maybe Walker can just send that as an email to the CPA people. So let me just share my little spreadsheet here, and we should be able to go through this pretty quickly. So you see that there? I can bump up the view too if need be. Let's see what the zoom is. Let's do that better, folks.
Can you
Yes.
make it bigger, Robin?
Bigger? Yep. Just say the word.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem. Better?
Yep.
Is that better? Everybody can see okay?
It's better.
Okay, Pat, you look like it might need to be a little bigger. I can make it a little bigger. Let's see. Let's try. How about that? Good.
I feel like I'm at the eye doctor. It looks about
I'll narrate too.
it looks about the same.
Oh, okay. Is it legible to everybody? I don't, okay, I'm going to assume if nobody says no, that's a yes. Okay, so we have I'm just going to start off with the Mill River signage and see if we're in agreement as a commission that this is not eligible for historic preservation. Historic preservation funds generally, or not generally, or specifically for either documentation that leads to better preservation of a historic structure or to the preservation of a historic structure, or can be an artifact as well. And if I could just get everybody up here. show of hands from everybody in terms of this particular project, that we agree that it's not eligible. I'm going to say this is not an eligible project.
So
Okay.
moved, Robin, so moved.
We're not moving at this point. We're just making a recommendation here. Pat, did you have a question?
No, I absolutely agree with that.
Okay. So walk. Oh, go ahead.
No, you aren't asking for that right now, but I'm telling you, I agree 100%.
Okay. Okay. Walker, if you want to just forward to the CPA folks that our opinion of this particular proposal is that it is not eligible. I think I might have these figures reversed. Whoops. Oh, now I'm really messed up here. Where's the, okay. Okay. I'm going to share a different screen. The Mill River survey project, I pulled up their budget. Should be this screen right here.
We're still seeing the same screen.
Okay, hold on.
Now I see it.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
You don't see it, which is a part of the
It's
problem.
just small.
That one, no. Is it this one? It's because I keep having my Zoom screen on top. Hold on, I'm going to stop sharing because I'm getting confused here. Too many windows open. Where did it go? It's not it. There it is. Okay, got it now. No, actually, that's not it either. All right, I'm not going to share my screen. I can at least see. Oh, this is very challenging. I'm just going to narrate this. They have, I looked at the project and it looked like they had $105,000 ask, which I thought was tremendously high for documentation of one particular area. Their budget shows a total ask of the CPA of 125,000. So that's not in alignment with their total amount. And then they have documentation of historical research exhibits for $25,000, which I would exclude. Biographical and family information, which is unclear to me, and then archaeological and physical data. I don't think that archaeological items are necessarily fall under preservation. So this, I'm kind of stumped on this one. And I'm going to be asking questions of the applicant because there's not a proposal from or an estimate from a researcher, in the way that you would have an estimate from like, the chimney company or the roofer. Nor do I have a sense of what the actual deliverables are. So my sense of that project is that we would not be recommending the full amount, but it's kind of not clear what we would be looking at. So let's skip over that one for now and discuss the town hall slate roof. What are people's feelings on that particular project and funding? I know it's a lot of money, and I think I explained earlier, when we have big requests like this, proposals, they can be bonded over a period of 5 or 10 years. So it doesn't wipe out the CPA money for 1 year. So you could approve the project for $1 million and just spread it out over 10 years or spread it out over 5 years. So that's something to keep in mind.
Can you explain that a little more? How do you spread it out?
So if the CPA committee decided to recommend it, which is what our job is, we recommend things. The town council is the one that actually approves them. But if we recommended it at $1 million bonded over 5 years, that means that the funds for this year's CPA wouldn't even be reduced by this project. It would be, so let's say we have $1 million and it's 5 years, so that's $200,000 a year. FY this gets really confusing because the FY numbers are weird, but just go with me here. FY 28, the amount that we would have to spend for CPA would drop by $200,000. That would be,
So you're spreading the amount out
yeah.
over.
You've
years.
already have committed it for future CPA years. So you can't do that over and over again because eventually you don't have any CPA money to spend. But that's what we standardly do with larger asks. If we, we might reduce them, but even if we reduce them, we might spread them out over a period of time.
Yeah, okay.
So Robin, I have a question, and I've had this question, we all have, over various projects that involved town property. The building is historic, and to maintain the red tile is important to maintain that historic presentation. But at what point does CPA kick in and does the town kick in?
And that's, I think it's kind of discussed a little bit more at the CPA meetings. Generally, the answer from the town has been, I'm paraphrasing here, but that it's generally, it's all town money is what I've
Right.
heard before. I mean, here we do have a case where they're talking about coming for $1 million ask for a $2 million project. So in that sense, $1 million of it is already being handled by the town. So,
Town.
yeah.
Okay, we've run into this situation a few times, like the steps in the front of the town hall, I think, were one of those things, and it just, and while the CPA money is town money, it's earmarked specifically for a certain purpose. And
Right.
so I want to be sure that those people who don't have any other recourse, who are looking for the CPA money, have an opportunity.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I have made that argument before. I think, for me, in the case of this particular project, given that it's, a 50-50 split, it is such a huge project. It's such a historic building. It's so visible. And
Right,
it's
no, all of those
gonna be a
things.
100-year roof, it's sort of like, how do you?
How do you not do it? Of course. But I had to ask that question. I had to just bring up my thoughts on that because we're going to be facing this from time to time, and we have already.
Right, yeah, agree. So
So
thoughts?
I like your idea of the bonding because then it won't deplete funding annually.
Right. And that's generally what the town does is they come to CPA with kind of a recommendation on how to spread things out because they have the financial expertise. So
Right.
So do we feel that this is a high, a medium, or a low priority project among these projects?
Hi.
Hetty says hi. I would agree. Hi. George says hi.
I agree.
Pat, would you agree that we'd rank this high?
I agree. It's the town hall needs to be preserved.
Okay. Cemetery headstones. Hetty and I are pretty familiar with this. Oh, and Kenzie, I'm sorry, I didn't ask you for your. Did you give a thumbs up for high there?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, great. Cemetery headstones. Any further discussion?
Well, it'd be nice.
Go, Joel. Go.
I'm just saying, I think it'd be nice to finish the job.
Okay.
And the way I look at a lot of these too is, if you're actually physically getting something, first off, second off, how tight that plan is, they've consulted and they know exactly what they want. And I think, the roof was that way and the headstones are that way.
Right.
It's like Joel said, finishing the project.
Right. I think my only, yeah, I mean, I would say with this particular project, if it had to wait a year, it probably wouldn't be hugely detrimental. Which is the only reason I would rank it at medium, but other thoughts, Pat, Kenzie?
I don't think it's critical.
Okay,
If high is critical, I don't think it's critical. It's, as Joel said, we need to finish the project, but what time frame do we do it in?
okay. All right, so let's consider the Stronghouse and the Goodwin Church, which are both physical structures, which may be more at risk than the headstones at this point. What are your thoughts on those projects in terms of ranking?
Yeah, I like the church project.
Okay.
Me too.
I'd like to see, a little more detail to exactly what they're asking for.
Okay, were you able to access the full application with their, well, you did, yeah, you did, because you brought up that they had the chimney estimates and,
Just what's in the letter. I mean, just what's in the PDF that you sent, and that's where
Yeah.
it's pretty vague, because they're suddenly talking about the roof, and I don't see that mentioned at all
right, okay, all
in
right,
there. They're talking about the chimney and the foundation and,
okay.
From
Well,
my
Oh,
sorry. From my understanding from talking with them, the reason why it seems a little confusing is that they had a leak around the chimney, and when they went to assess that, they found out that there was also water in the basement. So I think it's kind of associated in the application that they've got a chimney person to come in and look at the chimney and then realize they had other water issues as well.
Okay. All right, I would give that a high rank. I mean, I agree with you, George, and I'm gonna take a closer look at the application, so I'm prepped for the questions that I want to pose. If you want to look at it again and send any questions you want me to forward to the applicants for their presentation before CPA, feel free.
I don't think I have anymore. I just don't want to, hey, let's give them the money, and then they
Right,
fix the problem.
yeah, yeah, and I think it'll get more scrutiny at the meeting, but I would rank this on the high side just because water damage, roof damage, that's kind of an immediate concern. Would you agree with that, George?
Yes, I would rank it high.
Okay, all right, Hattie?
But yeah, they need to
Yeah.
specify what's going on.
Yep, okay. And Kenzie? Yep, and Pat?
I agree, but I think at the CPA meeting, you could flesh out exactly the scope of the work and the timing of, what's the priority for them?
Okay.
Is it the roof or is it the basement?
Okay, all right, so I've got a high with an asterisk on one with more detail on the project and to clarify, okay. And then Stronghouse?
Joel, was it you who said that you thought this number was quite high for what the scope of the project seemed to be? And you're muted.
I'm muted, Joel.
Sorry, Goldie was barking. I'm not denying that it's not a big job and an involved job. It is, but boy, it's a big number. But again, it's a very, very important building in Amherst. I'm just curious. I mean, for that kind of money, I would think you could do nearly the whole foundation all over again. Just lift the house, and I know that's kind of crazy, but it just seems like a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you have the expertise in construction on this commission. And so again, if you could formulate a question in an email to send to me so that I can submit it. I think it's a good question to ask of the project and, it might want to get discussed at the next level. And I don't think that I would, I don't have the expertise to say that's a lot of money for a foundation project. I don't know that.
Well, part of the problem is that the town has to pay prevailing wages, so it's a whole new level of cost.
Right, oh, okay, yeah,
This,
right.
this project shouldn't have to pay prevailing wages.
it shouldn't?
because
It's
a
not the
historic-
town.
It's a historic society,
Oh,
not the
okay.
town, so.
Yeah,
That
but,
works.
but I missed the fact that they had bids for each aspect of the project. And I think, Robin, if you go back over the application, um, the presentation just seemed kind of an overview of we need to do this, we need to do that. I didn't hear that they had bids from anyone in particular for each aspect of the project.
Okay.
Just one company, it was
Right.
TIAG.
I
Right,
think
right.
they broke it down into two. There was
Yeah, I mean, I've got
235
my-
and then 40.
Yes, 235 for the foundation and 40 for reinforcement of the roof trusses is what I have.
But it's just one construction company giving the bid. There's
Right,
no,
yeah, the single bid.
there's no competitive bids.
Right, yeah, okay. I can put that in there. But on the basis of the project itself, not so much the money, would we consider this a high priority?
I think this is not unlike the town hall in that it's a historic building, and it's used as a historic building. I've been there many times, and they do lovely programming and have some nice exhibits and that change. I mean, the Cambodian program last summer or summer ago, was very well done, and it honored the Cambodian community in this town, which is part of history.
Okay.
So, I think we need to pay attention that there is a place that these things can happen and that they're open to the public.
And in terms of, I mean, we've lost Joel for the moment, but the project itself being a kind of at risk, the building is at risk at this
Right.
point. We've got that section closed
They're,
off.
they're not,
I
they're
would
not in the
put it
building
under
right now.
5.
They're in the Knights of Columbus building.
Right, right.
What was Judy's and is now the Oyster House.
Right.
So they've got a great space there. And so that I don't think, I'm also a little concerned that if we don't do this, we don't fund this, that, I mean, it's a structural issue, isn't it? And it's really close to the Jones Library project. I'm remembering some pretty well-founded concerns about, the relationship of the two buildings and the nature of the drop in the site between the two. I'm just. I think I need a little bit more information. I agree with Pat. There's a lack of specificity.
But in general, I think it's a high priority because we
Yes,
preserve
yes.
the building. But I
Yes.
also think I'd rather see some bids
Mhm.
and specificity of what the how the project is going to be orchestrated.
Yeah, okay, okay.
They also included money for overruns, like 30 or 35,000, I think.
Yes, right. I think that's kind of standard practice these days. I mean, and bear in mind that, if they're awarded $275,000 and the project comes in at 240, they don't get they're only reimbursed for what they expend. So any project that comes in under budget, that's the expense, and the remainder just stays within the CPA funds. Okay, so would it be fair to say that the cemetery headstones were therefore a medium priority project?
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, and then I would say you guys can let me know what you think about the Mill River survey. I mean, my concern, I don't even know how to rank it because I mean, I would put it at a medium a medium ranking, but the ask is very high and I don't think it's very clear. I don't think the deliverables are very clear at all. That's my, I'm not in support of the project. More the proposal gives me pause.
Right, and so in that way, it would be less than medium because it's not clear and exactly what the product is.
Right, okay. 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 So I can take those recommendations to the CPA. And I will take into, excuse me, your account, your thoughts and concerns as I, review these again. I have to submit questions by the 24th. So this was actually really helpful. So with that, I'm gonna let you have the similar kind of discussion around these two Jones projects while I go off camera and audio. And then when you're done, I'll come back in and I think we can conclude our meeting. Okay, thanks, everybody.
So thoughts on the Civil War tablets priority level for that?
I'm in favor of this project. I would give it a high priority.
Yeah, I agree with Hetty. Let's just get it done.
Yeah, it's in the original proposal that they're going there anyway, so we've got to find some money to put them there.
Right, right. And it's not a great deal of money. If I remember, it's
75.
yeah, that's not an enormous amount of money to move these tablets that weigh, probably, I'm going to exaggerate, but may weigh a ton each.
Yeah.
And to
Stabilize them. Yeah.
stabilize them, establish them, that's not a lot of money. So yeah, let's get that project done.
Joel or Kenzie have any thoughts on that, or do you agree?
I agree.
Joel, you're muted.
Yes, that sounds good, Walker.
Okay. What about the Jones Library request for the windows and the woodwork?
It's hard to throw more money at that.
I think the windows were part of the original funding. I could be wrong, Walker, but
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Our commission recommended that they replace the windows because I remember kind of hammering away at them about what it would cost to repair them versus what new windows would cost, because I've had some experience with this kind of thing, and they acknowledged that it would be close, and so it seemed like the only thing to do was replace them. But it seemed to me that that was part of the original total cost.
It was, Pat, and it was in the memo.
Yeah. So I don't know that we should consider windows.
Yeah.
I might be more inclined to consider preserving the millwork in the interior. I'm not sure how much of that was included in the original cost, but that's preservation. And originally they were gonna turn the director's office into the book, that automated book place, and had not a lot of regard for the woodwork that was in there. And so, and then they were not going to restore the stairway, which is, needs to be restored as part of the original woodwork. And so I think I would be more interested in preserving those things that might not be as clear line items in the budget as the windows are, or as the slate roof is.
Yeah, but apparently they've got the roof covered by some other fund, and that's kind of the question I have about the windows too. If pressed, could they find, other funding for that? Does it need to be these funds?
I think that my recollection, and Hetty, you and I were part of many discussions on this, is that the windows and the roof were included in the final budget. And I think that there was some concern that the millwork might not be preserved to the fullest extent that they're describing now. And so my thoughts are, if we're going to preserve anything, let's preserve what makes that building the age that it is and the craftsmanship that went into making it. But I think the windows and the roof, they didn't mention the roof. They kind of took that off the table. But
Wasn't that a separate, didn't they rebid the roof? I think so, but
once it had to be slate.
once that was all ironed out, I think it had to.
But I think the windows also, Hetty, my
Yeah,
recollection.
no, you're
is
right.
Windows, I think, are part of the budget that was finally established. But I have a soft spot for the millwork. I'll say it that way, because I think that's the character. You walk in the front door and the character of the building is this millwork.
What's tricky about that, Pat, is that Jim spent quite a lot of time in the presentation talking about taking care of the capitals and the columns and the entablature of the front entrance, and that's
Right.
all exterior work. And while it, I'm struggling with those two pieces, I guess. It's all wood.
It's all wood, and maybe we could have them break out the wood at the front door and the millwork in the front foyer and offices, and break that out from their ask.
Well, I'm still really concerned that, I mean, I'm really happy that they're looking in more detail at the woodwork in the director's office.
Right.
It seems a lot of attention for a room that's going to be for an automatic book sorter. But that's to the side. I can't quite let that go, but I agree with you, Pat. I think of all these things that they've presented to us. It is the woodwork that
And I think some of them, I think the bookcases they were referring to, maybe in the foyer and the staircase. There are things that are in as you walk in the door that signify the age of the building, and so maybe you're right. We had an issue with what they were thinking to do with the front door at one point.
Yes, with the lintel.
Maybe if
I don't know what's happened to that, but that was a long
discussion. Either, but maybe if they break out the front door woodwork and the foyer woodwork and the stairway. I don't know whether that was included in that or not, but the Brazilian cherry wood. That's probably one way to describe it, rather than particular pieces or what it's called in practical use. But I think if we were to have them break out the Brazilian mahogany, not cherry, Brazilian mahogany, and the front door, that might be something we could approve or recommend approval.
What do other people think?
I don't understand much. Why does the interior woodwork need renovation? I mean, it's not painted or anything. It's in good shape.
Well, partly, Joel, I think they have to remove it.
Why?
Because it's a good question, but I think that we were told that there was some asbestos that needed to be removed, and in order to not destroy it, they needed to remove it and then replace it.
I think it's already been removed. The idea is, how do they restore it and put it back?
Restore it and put it back.
Yeah.
I mean, I've worked with a wood conservator in the past, and it's extremely painstaking technical work, in a historic building. And this is why I was so concerned about the Philippine mahogany to begin with, and concerned about the kinds of interventions that were we were being told were needed that impacted the Philippine mahogany woodwork. George, you're right. You know, obviously a lot of it has been removed already. Hopefully,
But it
in a good
needs
way.
to be restored. And,
Yeah.
and thank you for correcting me. I was calling it Brazilian, but it's Philippine. So how does anybody else feel about kind of breaking this down into preserving history?
Well, the woodwork in that library was exquisite. I didn't even know they pulled it off. You're saying that it's gone now?
Not all of it, Joel. It's just
Wow.
where the 1993 edition meets the 1928 building. You know, that's the critical piece of all of this. And so the 1993 edition has been demolished, as far as I can tell from the photographs.
I just can't believe that this isn't incorporated in the 46 million.
It's a good question, and that's why I'm suggesting that the windows must be. I don't know, and we need better answers about the Philippine mahogany. But if we're going to spend any money preserving anything, you're right, it's exquisite, and it was handcrafted, and it spoke to the times. I wouldn't want them to shortcut on that.
I think their ask was 1,352,000.
How many millions are we going to put into this place?
I don't know.
No,
I can't answer that, but I'm inclined to take the windows out of the ask because I think they must be in the budget.
I'll go with that, Pat.
Yeah.
Or that they can source them in some other way. You know.
Well, they've known that they had to do this for a long time, and the Mass Historical Society requested that they do that. And so this is something that needs to be part of the cost factor of the whole building. I just don't know where the preserving the Filipino mahogany fits into the scheme of things.
And I take it, I think originally they sort of had all that sourced out, in both cases. But it's this lack of federal funding now that, you know, sort of
I think
pushes it out.
I think it's crunched them because I think that funding could have been used for the woodwork. It would fall under that category. We have probably more questions we should have asked them that we're asking ourselves. But I think maybe as these questions are raised for Robin, but she won't be able to speak to it at the CPA meeting because of her dual role.
I can at least try to write a narrative that goes to the rest of the committee that kind of explains your concerns and the questions you had, and other committee members can hopefully dig a little deeper.
That would be great, Walker. That would be very helpful. But I think Hetty and I don't know who else are in agreement that the windows shouldn't be part of the ask.
Agreed.
Yeah, I'll include that as well. So would you say the project is a high priority if you take the windows out, or is it more of a medium priority?
I think once we better understand where the funding lies or isn't existent for the woodwork, I think the woodwork is an important part of the restoration and the preservation. And I that might be just my opinion, but you walk in the front door and that's the image of the Jones Library.
yeah, the windows, we may have required them to be rebuilt, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that should be funded from this particular funding
Yeah.
source. Yeah,
We require that they replace them.
yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And so did the Mass Historical Commission,
well, yeah, lots of other agencies did too. So
right?
yeah.
So Walker, how I'm not lost for words, but for the concept of to say that we're not going to include the funding for the windows because they should be part of the overall funding, but we're interested to know what the cost of just addressing the woodwork, the restoration, the replacement, etc.
Okay. Yeah, I will make that clear.
Was there anything else in that ask? I think not. I think it was mostly the windows and the front door.
And the door.
Yeah, the woodwork around the front door because that's a preservation piece.
Mm-hmm.
For 46 million, they don't do the exterior trim. It makes no sense to me. Why are we paying for this?
You know what? They were going to remove that.
I think some of this is stuff that wasn't included in the original project, but
Yeah.
got included later because of the Historical Commission. So it may not have been in the budget originally.
And so we need to clarify that. But I think, in my opinion, the two things we need to focus on is the woodwork around the front door, what gives that door its historic value, and the woodwork in the foyer. I'm calling it the foyer, the lobby, the whatever, I don't know.
Any other thoughts or opinions on that, or shall we wrap this up?
I think I'm having a little bit of PTSD about this project.
It's too late for that. Too late for that.
Yep.
All right. Robin, if you want to come back.
Bring Robin back. Yeah.
I feel like I'm one of those TV game shows that I watched as a kid. We'll bring Robin back out. Okay. So your guys' recommendations for the Jones projects will be conveyed via Walker. A reminder that anybody from the commission is free to attend the CPA meetings. I'll make sure to send out the schedule when I know when the historic preservation projects will be presented, and you can both attend in the audience and make public comment.
Walker, I have a question for you. I was wondering if Meg Gage knew about the meeting tonight. She's our president of donor, and
that would be a question for Walker.
Yeah, I think the only contact that was listed on the application, as I recall, was not her. I can't remember his name. It was a man. So that was the person that I emailed about the meeting. So I didn't know if I didn't know who else to contact for that one. But if you have contacts for me to pass on questions, at least, they might be able to
reach out to me.
Okay. I will do that.
Okay. So the second to last item, third really, is the vote to approve a designated signature for preservation restrictions. This will streamline all our work. If we designate, I guess we just designate the liaison to the commission, Walker, so that once we've agreed as a commission, Walker or whoever is in that position can act in our stead and sign on behalf of us.
That, or often committees designate just the chair, or just like one person on the commission to do it.
Okay.
And that's probably slightly better because then it's a member of the commission who's signing it, but it's only one person that I have to coordinate with.
Okay, so do we want to make that designation? Anybody else want to do it besides me? Walker knows I've had a few trouble showing up at town hall when I said I was going to. That's fine. We can just make it the chair. I won't be chair for forever. So do we need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to designate the signature authority for preservation restrictions as the acting chair of the Historical Commission.
So do you need a second?
I need a so moved, which is the first.
So moved.
So, okay, Pat, so moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Hetty. So the vote, we're going to vote on designating the chair of the Historical Commission as the signature authority for preservation restrictions. Joel,
Yes.
Hetty,
Yes.
Mackenzie,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Pat,
Yes.
and I'll vote yes as well. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Finally, it is 10:01 and it's time for public comment. If there's anyone in the public who would like to make a very brief 3-minute comment, please raise your hand. And
I
Hilda,
just wanted to say that the person who wrote the application was Brian Harvey, who happens to be Lynn Grissomer's husband, happens to also be the person who keeps saying no more money for Jones Library from the town of Amherst. That's my end of my comment.
Thanks, Hilda. Any other public comment? We'll give it a moment. Let's say seeing no hands raised, we'll move on to any unanticipated items. And seeing none, the only thing we need to do at this point is schedule our next meeting. And 20th. The 17th of November is a Monday. The week prior to Thanksgiving. Does that work for everybody?
It should.
Okay. Okay, great. So the next meeting of the Historical Commission will be November 17th at 7 p.m. All right, with that, I will adjourn. Thanks, everybody. It was a long meeting. Appreciate all your help.
Thank you.
Yours too, Robin. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.